Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times, Daddy, with a special WWE edition of your favorite professional wrestling podcast. That's right, Getting Over is back once again, this time on a Saturday morning for a full weekend of football to break down not only what was termed, using various adjectives, a major announcement for WWE that transpired early Friday, but also analysis of WWE AAA Worlds Collide 2. I'm calling it 2. They're not giving it numerals or anything like that, but clearly it seems like there's going to be a million of them. So we were planning to discuss that this coming Tuesday on our WWE WrestlePalooza Ultimate Preview podcast, but because this major, epic, all-time announcement happened earlier Friday, we had enough to compose an additional episode for you, and Vintage Chris Vanini is here along for the ride to discuss the opening portion of this show. Let's not waste any time getting into it. Off the top, allow the Silver King to remind you that the Getting Over Wrestling podcast
is all about the fight.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify, leave a 5-star rating on Apple, take a little extra time, leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Don't forget to follow us everywhere on social media at Getting Overcast, Twitter, Blue Sky, YouTube. You can listen to the show. You can, of course, watch video interviews there as well. But on Twitter and Blue Sky, you get episode drops, news analysis highlights, and all of that good stuff. Lastly, please don't forget,
I happen to love the number 5.
and I hope you do as well. $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. Again, that is buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Vintage, welcome to the show. We have a big time college football Saturday ahead of us. My Florida Gators are playing in Death Valley against the LSU Tigers Saturday evening. Game normally I would be looking forward to among the most all year, and I am not looking forward to it at all this season. I don't know what Michigan State's doing today. Anything big or no?
They got the Fighting Penguins of Youngstown State.
Okay, so a cupcake game for you, and you're, I assume, not attending a game today. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, so Chris is finally home, of course, on a Saturday where there is not a WWE Premium Live event, which are the Saturdays we prefer him to be stuck in his house. We have a lot to talk about today on the show. I already mentioned the two major topics we will be covering,
But I'm afraid I've got some news.
just a real quick item that I want to, put forward here. So there was a report on Friday that TNA talent is being banned from working Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, which, for those who do not know, Scott D'Amore was the former chief over in TNA. He got fired, and he went over and started this promotion, and they've been using TNA talent and AEW talent to put on shows in Canada, right? And a lot of people like Scott a lot, especially those who previously worked in TNA. They found him to be a real, talent type of manager, I guess. I'm trying to think of like a player's coach, what you would call that in wrestling, a talent manager. I don't know. But they enjoy working with him is the point. Anyway, there was a report that TNA has now banned its talent from working Maple Leaf shows because it considers AEW the enemy. And therefore, because AEW talent is booked on the show and TNA has a relationship with WWE, they don't want them working together. So I just wanted to tell you all straight up, I contacted TNA president Carlos Silva. He obviously was a guest on this show. We've chatted here and there a little bit over the last couple of weeks, months, however long it's been. I'm really losing track of time in 2025. And he just flatly denied this. He said it's patently false. I'm not quoting him, but he said it's patently false. It's silly as a report. And he even pointed out to me that they've sent TNA talent there recently, and Scott D'Amore helped them acquire a ring when TNA had a show in Canada recently. So he said it's a bunch of nothing. It's bullshit, and the report is just blatantly false. So I figured I'd give you that information here at the top of the show, and I appreciate Carlos Silva allowing us to quote him, not quote him, but cite him, and also answering us as quickly as he did. So that was just a quick item off the top here of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast.
But I'm afraid I've got some bad news.
And that's really what we're here to talk about. WWE on Friday, in what was termed at various times a huge, historic, major, special announcement. Well, they said that WrestleMania 43 in 2027 will be held in Saudi Arabia. No further information was provided. Nary a set of dates, a start time, stadium location, nothing. They didn't even mention it being 2 days. I actually think that's pretty important to note. To paraphrase Jerry Seinfeld, it was quite a scene, man. You had Paul Levesque out there spitting propaganda looking like a converted hostage. The Undertaker is telling Americans, get this, they should travel to the show. As far as that goes,
not bloody likely.
They thrust Bianca Belair out there to put over how the shows have been great for women.
Off is a direction you can fuck.
The wrestlers who did show up, including Seth Rollins, Liv Morgan, Stephanie Vaquer, The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Charlotte Flair, they were paraded out there like mannequins. You could see it on their faces. One thing you cannot fake is enthusiasm. It was like a family of 8 went to go see great grandpa in the nursing home after church. That's the way they looked standing behind these guys. The women were dressed head to toe in America, mind you. You could see like the upper chest, lower neck, clavicle area of Charlotte Flair and like the lower forearms of Vaquer. Hopefully they aren't banned from the country for that. Bianca was dressed like a first lady. And then the minister guy, Turkey, who, by the way, twice spoiled the announcement before it could actually be made. He goes out there and he puts over Vince McMahon, of all people, who is obviously persona non grata. And he's saying that Nick Khan is continuing Vince McMahon's legacy, which in context of the relationship, okay, but without context, holy shit, right? And look, maybe that even changes in 2027. Who can even say at this point? Anyway, this mega announcement of the first ever international WrestleMania outside of North America, frankly, it could have been an email. There were neither fans nor media in attendance. It was set up in a way for WWE to attempt to control the narrative despite immediate backlash. I guess to be fair, not having journalists at a Saudi-sponsored press conference was probably a good idea. On SmackDown, WWE aired the announcement in a video package and immediately threw to another video, so that way they had the crowd turned off and you couldn't hear what they had to say. On Worlds Collide Friday night, they showed the announcement live to the crowd, which was such a bad decision. They heavily booed it and loudly chanted, "You sold out." Now, WWE cut off the audio on its feed before it could get loud. We posted a video on social media. I believe it's like a Las Vegas radio host who we cited, by the way, Adrian Hernandez. You can hear it loud and clear. To quote Jake Johnson in Tag, might be a deep cut for some of you, but that is a good movie. That's what you get. Look, I know many of you listening have been with us from the beginning, or at least for a long time. So you probably have a solid handle of where we stand when it comes to these Saudi shows if you didn't get it from the way I just explained that story. Yes, it's blatant sports washing. Yes, it's awful that WWE and TKO are in business with them. We refer to these events as blood money in the sand for a reason, okay? This is about the government and the regime, not the people, who by all accounts seem to love WWE, which has grown in popularity there over the years with more lively shows that have been booked a lot better and featured women far more than they did 8 years ago when this started. It is also not out of line compared to what other leagues in similar fields are doing right now. None of that changes the reality of what WWE has decided to do annually by going over there. It does not change the sports washing and the propaganda that follows these shows, and it does not change our distaste for them as viewers. And we are not on this show telling you that you have to agree. We're just telling you how we feel. End of the day, WWE has been going over there for 8 years now. Acting like Friday's announcement crossed some imaginary barrier or threshold because WrestleMania specifically is being put there, it's kind of absurd. Every one of us to a person knew this was eventually going to happen, be it 2027, 2029, 2031. WWE was putting WrestleMania in that country. At the same time, WWE being willing to hold its Super Bowl, its signature event, in that country, it does land on a different plane. In the past, you could look at these twice-a-year shows as just blatant money grabs. The $50 million WWE gets paid per show, it's more than any night of WrestleMania has ever earned. And those were for non-WrestleMania shows. Now, a source close to the situation does tell Getting Over this is a 9-figure deal. I saw the report about it being $250 million, $250 million. I don't believe that for a second. I'm not saying it's wrong. I can't say that, but I don't believe it. My guess is that this is going to be WWE's only trip over there in 2027. So it'll probably be two $50 million paydays for the one weekend, plus maybe another $50 million on top of that for the ancillary events, the spectacle, the brand, so on and so forth. So that would be around $150 million. Again, that number is just a guess, but I have been told firmly it's a 9-figure deal. And if they're getting $150 million from WrestleMania corporately, I don't know how you turn that down. Getting Over has also been told that the idea as of right now is to be hosting WrestleMania 43 at King Fahd Sports City Stadium, which is in an extreme stroke of irony where Crown Jewel was held in 2019. You know, the Seth Rollins Fiend Hell in a Cell main event. Anyway, that stadium is presently undergoing renovations. They're hoping to expand it to 70,000 seats in 2026. If WWE does host there, they can approach that 140,000 combined distribution figure they've boasted about the last few years. If not, they could move down in size significantly. It could, if it's not hosted there, be the lowest attended WrestleMania in decades. Not that it matters for the bottom line or their overall calculus. They're just paid a flat sum across the board. Anyway, back to what I was saying. I got off track. The $50 million per show deal that WWE has with Saudi Arabia, you could have initially viewed that as just pure, unadulterated money grab if you really wanted to try to make sense of it all. Hey, a publicly traded company putting the bottom line first above anything else. But now, placing WrestleMania over there, making Saudi Arabia, of all places, your first ever international host outside of North America, that's a point of no return when it comes to this agreement. It would have been one thing if WWE booked London in 2027 and pre-announced this for 2029. But as you know, that's not what happened. And then, putting this in context, to schedule Saudi Arabia for 2027, after you screw over New Orleans to go back to Las Vegas in 2026, meaning it's going to be Vegas, Saudi in a 3-year stretch. You are literally flipping a middle finger, not only to New Orleans, which I'll remind you came to a firm agreement with WWE for the show to the point they were going to announce it during the Super Bowl parade. Not only are you flicking off New Orleans, you're giving 2 big old middle fingers to your American fans. There's ads all over the paid broadcast, outrageous ticket prices that continue to soar, neither of which is uniquely a WWE issue, but it's happening nonetheless. Now you're twice moving WrestleMania after they had been either entirely or mostly agreed upon. Don't forget, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Okay, I want to remind you of that. And now you're making your biggest show of the year inaccessible to a significant portion of your audience for 3 straight years.
Are you fucking kidding me?
There's going to be a lot of bullshit on this show. Mark my words. We'll have to circle back to this diatribe in 18 plus months. You're going to see some wild shit. Stone Cold Steve Austin wrestling, The Rock wrestling, a third of the titles not on the cards, a battle royal, John Cena coming out of retirement after less than 2 years. I'm just saying. Is there any silver lining here? I suppose this is WWE showing a willingness to take WrestleMania internationally in the future. But if it is indeed the 9-figure sum that we've been told, who else is paying that? London's mayor has been famously against pay-for-play in this scenario. Maybe Paris? The truth is, this is not going to be the only WrestleMania held in Saudi. In terms of what WWE is going to do stateside, one idea thrown around initially was a double broadcast, one night in Saudi, one night in a major U.S. city. Memphis was mentioned as an option a long time ago. Minnesota, when they took it away from them, was mentioned also. Logistical nightmare, plausible though. Another idea, which is not happening, was doing a second WrestleMania, on a different date, which is just tough to comprehend from a branding standpoint. You can bet SummerSlam 2027 will be treated as the domestic WrestleMania because of this. You can bet AEW in 2027 will do its best to capitalize on WWE's decision. Whether they're positioned to do so is anyone's guess, given how viewership is trending. But they have a lot of levers at their disposal, including they could book a major show in New Orleans in 2026. or take advantage of this domestic window in 27, but that's a way off. So that's basically what I got for you here. I believe any question that was posited to us on social media was already covered in this discussion. So before we get to the Worlds Collide 2 breakdown and we get Chris to come in with his opinion on all of this, I will leave you with what we will be using as the official name of WrestleMania 43 here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Consider this our verbal trademark coming in 2027, a WrestleMania. Vintage, your thoughts?
You might want to actually trademark that.
I feel like
frankly.
we should. Yeah.
You got the logo and all that.
I don't think I can trademark that logo, but
you covered pretty much everything there. I think, we always knew this day was coming. There was always the kind of drip of doing a little bit more, being a little more public, taking it another level. And here we are. And it's been clear all year that WWE in 2025 has been all about what they believe will help the bottom line. And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Far more than anything else. Saudi Arabia, I don't remember if it's official or not, but they are getting the World Cup, or they're about to get the World Cup. And that is far bigger than WrestleMania. And other sports have long followed what this is going. So it's not like WWE's the only one doing this. But it's just gross. It's just gross. And it always has been. We've always been upfront about that on this show. And I think in the back of our minds, you'd always hope that there was maybe one thing that wouldn't go that far, that you could tell yourself, well, at least it's not that.
Right.
And that was WrestleMania. And that is no longer the case. And whether it's Brock Lesnar coming back, whether it's all the ads, like you said, it's just, that's all that matters. And it's unfortunate. It's annoying. Don't know what time the show is going to be at. And if we're doing, a daytime WrestleMania here, that'll be kind of weird.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, this is where sports are going. This is where business has gone. And it's just, it feels gross, that the sports washing continues unabated. I say that as a fan of Manchester City, which does plenty of that as well. And yeah, it's just gross.
It is. To your point, Saudi Arabia is going to host, I believe, the 2034 World Cup. So, certainly far away, right? But they do parcel those out in distance. But, also to be fair, if you're putting WWE in the same bed as FIFA, which is like them and the IOC, the most corrupt sports organizations in the world, yeah, that's a much easier calculus actually for FIFA than it is for WWE and TKO to go ahead and decide to do this.
FIFA already moved the World Cup from the summer to the winter,
right, to
accommodate a Qatari World Cup, which has plenty of similar issues,
right? Because of the heat, mind you, because it's not a environment in which soccer, football should be played in the summer.
That is the level to which FIFA went to bend over backwards to make a Qatar World Cup happen,
right? And
so it's all unfortunate.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation, man. And it's you try to look at it from the standpoint of what can we do, right? Like if you're a fan and you're really disgusted by this, right? What can you do? In many ways, this is, applicable to a lot of stuff that's going on. You can, speak with your wallet and you can speak with your words. And that's pretty much what you can do. And that's if
I am curious if the booing in person continues or if WWE just kind of continues to mute it out and it eventually goes away. Because I remember at WrestleMania 40 when I was there, they did an ad for Crown Jewel or something, and the Philadelphia crowd booed it. We remember back, for the first Saudi show when The Undertaker had that promo after the Khashoggi murders that Saudi Arabia did, the crowd was booing. It made John Oliver's show and stuff like that.
Right.
I do wonder if the crowds will continue to boo. I mean, they don't really as much for Crown Jewel and stuff because we're kind of used to it, but it does feel like WrestleMania is again taking it to another level in which I'm curious if the in-house crowd will boo that for a long time.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's a barrier of perception, not reality. That's what I was trying to say earlier, and I hopefully made that clear. But the reality is they've been going there for 8 years, and they've done 2 events a year. This is one event for 2 nights, and sure, there's going to be ancillary shows. It's the same thing. Like, that's the reality. The perception, though, is that WrestleMania is WrestleMania. WrestleMania is special. It's unique. It's different. It's the show, and putting the show over there means you're going all in. Pun not intended. I mean, there's no 2 ways to kind of split that. But it's a good question how the crowds are going to respond, because I believe they still booed the Saudi shows. I don't think it's as vociferous and as loud as it was when the deal initially started 8 years ago. But some of that got calmed down because of, the WWE Thunderdome, which ironically is the first of 2 times we will mention that on today's show. Some of that got calmed down because the fans went away, and then when they came back, they were so happy to be back, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to go away. Now, time, they say time heals all wounds. That doesn't necessarily apply directly in this situation, but this is 18, 19 months away, assuming they hold it, at the same time of year in April, like not the end of the month, for example. And in 19 months, a lot of sentiment theoretically can change, or people can get tired of booing and talking about it. Also, don't forget, like, it will almost certainly be on Raw Monday night. I would imagine they then don't talk about it for 4-ish months until they're building to the 2026 Royal Rumble, which is, by the way, in Saudi Arabia. And then after that show ends, they probably won't talk about it for, 9 months. Outside of, promoting ticket sales and stuff, which, again, who the hell knows how that's even going to go. So I don't think this is going to be like a weekly feature on WWE TV where they're reminding the crowd, oh, by the way, we're going to Saudi Arabia for WrestleMania in 2027. But I will say, though.
Might.
But this is what I will say, though. I think it's going to get booed consistently. I don't see this changing. Now, maybe the volume, lessens and then increases again as they get closer. This is something that I believe WWE is going to actively try to hide from its live audiences, either by not showing the video packages in the arena while they air on television, or showing them but muting the live crowd, which they can do. There's backstage segments where you can hear the live crowd. There's backstage segments where you can't, based on one thing or another.
Yeah, I do think, I think part of them maybe thinks like people will just kind of give up and stop fighting. And frankly, that's how a lot of kind of
how it works. Yeah.
Political discourse goes these days. Just weather through it, and people will eventually give up fighting. I do think, like you said, the Rumble coming up, and then when it comes up, will kind of remind people. Again, it's just, I think all of this, it really sums up the kind of, I don't know what the word is, but like contradictions, hypocrisy we sometimes accept as sports fans for various things. We cover college football for a long time, and we know that the players can't make money from what they're doing. Right. We know, we watch soccer, and we know there's sports washing going on there. Mm-hmm. We know there's a lot of bad things that go on that we just kind of accept because we want to enjoy the thing that we enjoy. And that's what these companies try to take advantage of. And, you and I aren't perfect in the things we like and don't like.
No.
But we just, we want to acknowledge that and understand that this is a very unfortunate thing that's happening, that it feels like, fans, American fans especially, obviously didn't have a say in. And all you can do at this point is like you said, vocalize against it as much as you can. It won't change it, but if it makes you feel better, it's worth doing.
Well, you say won't change. It can. Look at the pressure that WWE got put under for like naming the women's battle royal against Fabulous Moolah. Fans went to Snickers, a sponsor on it, and said, we're going to boycott your product. We're done with this shit. And Snickers called WWE and said, change that name or we're out as a WrestleMania sponsor. And they changed it. Now,
I don't think the government of Saudi Arabia is going to.
No. Of course. But I'm just saying, like, I don't want people to feel like your voice isn't heard, can't be heard, etc., which is why we're voicing ours. It's why we're speaking about this the way we are. We cover WWE and AEW and professional wrestling from an unbiased standpoint in terms of which company is best and what we like and don't like on television. We're honest with you, and we don't let things influence that. But what we're also honest about, and we try not to get political on the show, but this is beyond politics. This is something that has to do with, a major company getting in bed with a nation and sports washing the shit that they do, the atrocities, the oppression that happens over there. And there's nothing wrong. I would never not speak truth to power in that type of way. I don't believe that's appropriate. We're not going to kowtow behind it and say, oh, well, it's the 10th time they're going to Saudi Arabia. Now we're okay with it. We're not going to mention it. That's why, at a minimum, when we talk about the show, we drop Blood Money in the Sand, or now a WrestleMania, when we talk about this show, because it's a little way for us to kind of do a little jab and say, hey, we're covering this and we're doing our job and we're trying to entertain you and cover this in as real a way as we possibly can. But at the same time, we're recognizing that this ain't great. And there's some real major issues with what's happening here. And there's a real major issue with WWE continuing to work with Saudi Arabia and now putting their signature show over there in 2027. And it's for the sports washing reasons, but it's also because of what they have now done to New Orleans and Minnesota. Like, they're screwing these cities, these major cities that made good faith bids that were seemingly accepted or on their way to being accepted when it came to Minnesota to host these shows. And again, we were angry about Las Vegas getting it back to back, a different situation, a different level of anger, different, story there. But I mean, there's going to be a 4-year period where WrestleMania is inaccessible to a shitload of people. That's crazy when you're trying to sell tickets. Now, ticket sales don't matter or won't matter for WrestleMania 43 because WWE gets paid their full, allotment there no matter what happens. But it's, I think it's a risky move for them. Because look, what matters these days, right? Like, ticket revenue does matter, and WWE is making more than ever. A lot of leagues and events are making more ticket revenue than ever because they are jacking them up early. And then when they don't sell out, they eventually come back to semi-acceptable, more normal levels at the end, and they end up selling them because fans are rabid and they want to go to these events, especially coming out of the pandemic still. But WWE makes the vast majority of its revenue on its media deals, right? So with Netflix and ESPN now, and NBC Universal, and the Saudi Arabia deal. It's the biggest influx of money for the least work that WWE has to do every single year. And even putting WrestleMania over there, if they are getting 9 figures, if it's around $150 million or more, it's such a reward for what they view, Chris, I guess, as minimal risk. I think the risk is larger than they think it is.
Not to get into a whole thing, but I would disagree just because everything that WWE and Netflix and everybody is looking for right now is international growth. They've maxed out.
Does that count?
I think
does Saudi Arabia count as international growth when the fans there are already watching? They have, I don't want to say they have limited options because there's so many events that go over there, right? But like, I don't think the NFL is going over there or the NBA. Like, there are some leagues that I don't think will go there.
I mean, I wouldn't rule out the NBA one day. I mean, NFL maybe because it's kind of a.
But like, I don't think the NBA. I could be wrong. I don't think the NBA has done like a tip-off game in China or anything, and they have a much closer relationship with them.
They've done stuff in China. I don't know about recently, but they've definitely done stuff in China. But I don't know.
My point is I don't think this counts though as like, I'm not saying they're not international. They certainly are. I just don't know that this like falls in that same bucket, because when you're talking about international expansion, you're really talking about free countries where people can travel to and go to games because it helps with tourism. And there's not really a tourism component when it comes to Saudi Arabia.
But putting it in Saudi Arabia opens up a time zone for European fans to better easily watch WrestleMania.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. Yeah.
I experienced that myself with SummerSlam in Italy. So
right.
It's I don't know. I'm sure when we get there, they will promote that. The European watches for WrestleMania were the highest they've ever had or something like that. I do wonder if that happens. I don't know. Yeah. Just a thought.
It's a possibility. But yeah, you are correct though in general about the concept of global expansion is where every sports league is going right now.
Because they all feel like they have tapped out their
yep.
American audiences.
Exactly.
And they're trying to find them elsewhere. And that lessens the quality of things for us.
It does. And frankly, with the way, I'm just, again, non-political, but the way like the economy's going and the way people are having less and less money to spend on things like this, it's probably a smart move too, because if you can go over there and sell out an arena, whether you're a traveling show, a concert series, Bad Bunny, I think, I could be wrong about this. I believe I'm correct though. I think he just did an entire tour and skipped the United States because of like politics. So, and I also think because of disposable income for people. So if you have artists doing that and labels and major events going overseas, then you're taking this uniquely American thing. I'm not saying entertainment is only American, because it's not. Obviously, there's Bollywood, and certainly movies are created in many other countries and TV shows, etc. But Hollywood and the expansion of that into sports is uniquely American. The way that we present it, promote it, all that type of stuff. And if the money is drying up in your own country for that content, then pushing it overseas and taking the money from everyone else, that's exactly what you need to do. So that's why I'm not sure that this falls into that bucket. But maybe to your point, it's more, hey, if you're in London, at least you can watch this at a normal hour. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We'll see.
All right, man. Well, look, we got a big college football Saturday ahead of us, so I'll let you go. Silver King is going to remain on the horn because we are going to break down everything that happened at WWE AAA Worlds Collide 2. I'd call it instant analysis style, but of course we're doing this on Saturday morning. Silver King badly needed to take a rest on Friday night. Worlds Collide had the same aesthetics as the first, with the Mexican flag ropes and unique Titantron setup. The only odd part is the turnbuckles had no logos on them. They were just blank. It looked like a video game almost. Penta got a tremendous reaction opening the show with an extended rousing speech in Spanish. It sounded great. I had absolutely no idea what he said live, outside of him saying bitch, which I think he was talking about Dominic Mysterio when he said it. It reminded me that I can still recall like Spanish nouns and verbs and adjectives and adverbs sometimes, but not really sentences. And I took Spanish in middle school and high school, so Silver King really needs to brush up on that shit. Conan related that Penta said he was going to be champion, AAA mega champion eventually, no matter who left with the title. He also said it was going to be a night of Mexican tradition and culture. Johnny on Blue Sky told us that Penta also called Dom a bitch, so he confirmed that, and of course, all of that plays. Regarding commentary, I don't know why exactly, but I love this trio of Corey Graves, JBL, and Conan. Graves, no notes whatsoever. The dude is informed. He brings energy. He completely commands the show. It's really tough to do, given the product differences and all the additional knowledge you need to gain over AAA, but he's been able to do it. JBL in large doses can be excruciating. One show every couple of months, his shtick is an absolute delight. He had some incredible one-liners during the show. Conan, I know people complain that he's low energy, but with the other two there, I don't know. It kind of entertains me the way he just makes random deadpan statements. He did have one line about like ice, and I think someone having their papers. That was a massive, massive yikes. And frankly, I couldn't believe it came out of his mouth and not JBL's. But it was kind of an aside. It was easy to gloss over, which they did. So all in all, like, I know people give him shit for commentary, but like as the third dude who's just this deadpan delivery of, I don't want to say facts, sometimes made up facts, whatever the case. I don't know, man. I found him pretty entertaining, and I really do like the commentary on this show. So let's start where the show ended with the main event, the AAA Mega Championship. Hijo del Vikingo defending against Dominic Mysterio. Rey Mysterio was previewing the show on SmackDown. They actually aired the same clip on Worlds Collide when Dom interrupted, saying he would put Rey to shame and become the first Mysterio to win the Mega title. He then challenged Rey to place the title around the waist of the winner if he was so confident, to which Rey ultimately agreed. That immediately gave me pause, thinking like, maybe WWE is going to use Rey in the United States to try to put Vikingo over as a babyface, because that would get guaranteed cheers, you would think. But my hope was Rey would be forced to strap up Dom. Finn Balor also shook Dom's confidence a little bit, saying the way he can truly prove he's the best luchador in the world, the king of the luchadors, which is the slogan they're going with, something that was trademarked like 2 months ago, is to win on his own without any help. So this was last on the show, as I said. Vikingo got booed. whereas Dominic got cheered. So it carried over some from Mexico. Not the same vociferousness for Vikingo. This was hot at the bell with Dom hitting 3 amigos. Vikingo landed a perfect shotgun dropkick plus a heavy meteora. Then he did a jump from the post to the top rope, only to get caught flying with a counter Liger bomb. Vikingo took Dom out of an electric chair for a rotating face plant, left something to be desired. Then he landed a 450 for a false finish. Balor and JD McDonough ran down with JD headbutting Vikingo and Dom landing Michinoku driver for another false finish. The fans were popping for heel interference. That's how they feel about both Vikingo and Judgment Day. Finn then helped Dom load his mask, but Vikingo super kicked him in that spot. Dragon tried but failed to save before Ray came down with a steel chair to chase them backstage. He ran just fine. He looks like he might be cleared. Vikingo then rolled Dom into the corner, hit his 630 finisher, only for El Grande Americano in his Mexican flag mask to pull the referee out of the ring. Dom capitalized with a 619 and a frog splash, but there was no referee to count. A late arriving ref led to a false finish. Vikingo hit a poison rana. He started ripping off Americano's mask through the ropes. That allowed Dom to load up his mask with the thing he wasn't able to put in initially, catch Vikingo with a flying headbutt plus a frog splash halfway into the ring to become the new mega champion. Ray stuck to his word, presented the title. Dom made him live up to his promise and literally strap him up before he celebrated with Judgment Day and Americano, who kind of took center stage raising his arm. This match booking was such a WWE AAA blend, like in a good way. Protected Vikingo, who they want to keep strong because despite the negative fan reaction right now, he is their Roman Reigns. The guy is amazing. And not just because he can do flips and athletic moves. He sells, he emotes, he knows how to work the crowd. He is legitimately the best they have by every metric. Hopefully they can find a way to rebuild him as a babyface. Either that, or as I've said before, send him to NXT for a bit. Look, this was not the match of the night, but it was by far the most important match. And we've been telling you for months here what the booking needs to be coming out of this, what makes the most sense going forward. Now that Dom is champion, a world champion, mind you, what an accomplishment for that dude. And Ray was forced to present him the title, which in reality was a cool way to have kayfabe Ray in the ring with his son for the moment, despite them hating each other. But now Ray is injected into the storyline. The move is for Dom to take this title into San Jose and defend it at Survivor Series against Ray, who would then become mega champion. Problem is, you can't have Ray or Penta even face Vikingo unless you are okay with Vikingo being a heel. If so, beating either of them would be an incredible way to establish him, including as a heel. Given what Penta said at the start of the show about challenging for the title, the plan might be for him to step into this role instead of Ray. I don't love that when they really should be finding a way to strap up Ray. He only has so much time left. Penta has plenty of time to take this title or any number of titles. Either way, with Dom now a double champion, that strap is going to be on the main roster for a long time, I believe. The problem is that the Intercontinental Championship is now stuck on the same person, which, as I said weeks ago, is why it should have been around AJ Styles' waist. It simply does not make any sense right now to basically push that division to the side when you don't need to do so. Now, maybe it's going to make sense in the future, but right now it doesn't. 3.75 stars, B+ for this match. The post-match with Americano was interesting as well. Potentially early signs of betrayal there. That could shift Dom face, I'm not sure. But Americano owes Mysterio his career, basically resurrecting him out of Mexico, allowing his legend to be celebrated. So he could definitely get jealous over that, and maybe that's the way it goes. You really got to love this for Dom individually. The kid debuted for WWE in a no-win situation. Sure, he was trained by his dad and others with massive amounts of experience. I'm not suggesting he didn't have a leg up. But he didn't toil through NXT. He shows up in the main roster right away. Completely bland character. He's just Ray's son, but really not able to go in the ring like anyone else he was competing against. Doesn't even really get the benefit that Rocky Maivia did of having the crowd turn against him. There was no crowd. It was in the WWE Thunderdome. So he's just a dry piece of toast, languishing out there in front of nobody. He has that match with Seth Rollins. You see the flashes. Then Levesque takes over creative, turns him heel with Judgment Day. and the rest is history. Dom is 28 years old. He's on track to be an all-timer. And I said it already, but what an incredible father-son wrestling moment for Dom and Ray, despite being enemies in kayfabe. Now that I think about it, what has it been? 3 years? They've been apart and stayed apart with hate. Like 3 times longer than the Bloodline dudes. And that was the top storyline in WWE. All right, moving to the rest of the card. We had Lola Vice and Mr. Iguana against Roxanne Perez and Finn Balor. Iguana early threw a sack, presumably housing El Demonito under the ring. Demonito later peeked above the ring apron, but Balor was angry because he wasn't supposed to show up yet. Vice again told us she's a Latina, only for Perez to pull the ring apron, distracting for an eye rake and a double jump moonsault chaser. Iguana threw La Yesca to Roxy while she was on the ropes. That was a distraction for a falling armbar. Iguana got fooled by an empty sack. Balor grabbed Demonito for a rematch. He immediately hit Sling Blade in a shotgun dropkick, wrapping Demonito around his neck for coup de grace, only for Vice to thwart the effort. Iguana took him off the ropes with a Hurricanrana before La Yesca hit a tope suicida on Demonito, and then Iguana did a slingshot tope on Finn. You heard that right. That tope suicida was better than Brie Bella, straight up. Roxy ultimately took Lola's back fist finisher after some misdirection, so the faces got the win. JC Jane was in the crowd, so they were promoting the NXT No Mercy match. Not as fun as the debut of Demonito, but a better wrestled match with better spots, the tope suicida especially. Plus, the way Finn talks to Demonito, like the demon was somehow witchcraft out of his body into this puppet, is honestly great. There was also a spot where Yesca informed Iguana that Demonito had shown up and he didn't see him yet. That was brilliant. Lola was the right winner given the setup with JC, and really, she beat arguably the second best NXT Women's Champion ever, which does give her some credibility as a challenger. 3.25 stars and a B. Latin American Championship, Dr. Wagner Tresero, Dragon Lee, JD McDonough, and Ethan Page in a fatal 4-way. There was some consternation this week about El Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr. changing his name to Dr. Wagner Tresero. Why? I have no idea. It is so much cleaner. You can't have a 6-word name as a wrestler. WWE probably pushed for that, which made it weird that he was still announced by his full old name, both in the match graphic and by Lillian Garcia before the bell. It's continued proof of WWE being real sloppy production-wise ever since TKO has taken over. Page tied Dragon's mask to the bottom rope, did jumping jacks. Then he got a cover on McDonough by falling down after eating a headbutt following a strike sequence. Dragon hit a double stack draping double boot on the WWE guys before taking Wagner off the apron with a jump over Hurricanrana and hitting a float over Liger Bomb on JD. He marked McDonough with an exposed elbow before hitting a huge tope con hero on Page and Wagner. JD prevented another hanging double stomp with a top rope avalanche Spanish fly. McDonough then pulled Lee up for Devil Inside, only to immediately get countered into a Mexican Destroyer. Page at Twisted Grin on Dragon, only to take a Swanton Bomb from Wagner, who added Wagner Driver on McDonough to retain the title. Yeah, that was a mouthful. This was the match of the night when it ended, and it was the match of the night when the show ended. Wagner was the right winner considering he just took the title in a real emotional match at WrestleMania. But really, when you watch these 4 guys, you could not help but say to yourself for the 100th time, Dragon needs to be strapped up or at least featured much better. To be fair, he has been the last 3 weeks. Great matches on Raw, another one here. But WWE needs to build on this momentum with Dragon in a serious way. Everyone did incredibly well here. JD was balls to the wall. You could argue he was the MVP of the match with his selling. Page was pitch perfect heel as usual. Everyone talks about like AEW talent doing better in WWE, WWE talent doing better in AEW. Page has flourished in WWE. It's incredible to see Wagner as the base, the through line of the match. He played his role perfectly. 4.25 stars and an A. Tag Team Championship, Psycho Clown and Pagano against New Day. New Day backstage said they were there to claim gold because while Adam Pearce hasn't given them a chance, AAA recognized their greatness. Xavier Woods then explained he needed surgery on his head 24 hours ago, but he flew to Mexico to support his boy Kofi Kingston. Grayson Waller cut a promo filling in for Woods, who added that they were expanding the Mexican Destroyer petition to include all dangerous lucha moves. Psycho messed with X early in the match ringside before hitting a split-leg moonsault on Kofi. The heels teased by going high risk, only to hop down and deliver hammer fists. A series of topes, including a somersault subicida, a header into the announce table, that raised the rent. Conan said something odd on commentary about Pagano and his papers and ice. That's what I was talking about earlier. Kingston expertly saved a nearly botched superplex. As X distracted the referee, Psycho used his belt on the heels and ripped his mask off, which is an incredible gimmick, sent Woods running to the back. The champions immediately hit stereo Mexican destroyers. Then Pagano hit a step-over somersault tope on Kofi as Psycho beat Waller with La Magistral. Best this could have been, Pagano slowing down, Waller subbing in. Obviously, he's not a vet like the rest. Would not mind seeing like a more concerted story leading to a rematch, maybe even New Day winning the titles in the future. You could see the veterans doing veteran work here, bell to bell. This dragged, and it really wasn't one of the better matches on the show. So it's just kind of like a borderline B-, B, 3.25 stars. I didn't get to see every moment of this because I was doing a bunch of other things at the same time. So I'm going to give it a B and just hope that's correct. But it very well may be a B-, and I'm probably not going to rewatch it. So it doesn't really matter anyway because the grades don't matter. Huge surprise after the match was the Wyatt Six interrupting an attempted interview. I will reiterate, the added sound effects have seriously hurt their entrance theme for no good reason. The Six attacked after the lights came on, with the champions hitting their finisher on Pagano before Nikki Cross did a flying squirrel splash on Psycho. Eric Rowan then ran the steel steps into Pagano's head as Psycho ate a Death Valley driver from Joe Gacy. Pagano took Dexter Loomis's flying seated move through a table before Psycho was powerbombed through a prop table in the ring. Uncle Howdy ended it with Sister Abigail, and they posed with all 4 straps. Extremely well done. The crowd loved it. The Six didn't get a huge pop when they first came out, but they definitely did at the end. Winning these titles with all 4 faction members strapped up would actually be kind of intriguing. Could even run some WWE AAA like 4-man teams on SmackDown just to kind of, go at this group that has 4 straps. If the Six are going to be heels, well, look, they need to be heels. This was them being heels. Psycho and Pagano took a ton of punishment. This was super entertaining. Fabi Apache fought Natalya, number 1 contendership for the AAA women's title equivalent. Once again, she came dressed out as low-key legend Natty, but to Natalya's music. Insanely confusing the way she's being presented. Natty dominated the vast majority of the match. Apache tried to catch her with the sharpshooter. That led to a sequence of 4 pinfall reversals that ended with Natty getting a tight cover for the 1-2-3. They got heated after the bell. Natty was brimming with confidence coming out of the match. I simply do not understand why Natty is not on the main roster, or hell, even NXT as a veteran. I'm not here suggesting she should be at the top of either division, but that's a valuable hand as opposed to Natalya, who is basically a joke as a character in 2025. I would have loved a few more minutes of this, just like the tag team match. Borderline B-, B. I'm actually going to say firm 3.25 stars B. It was a real nice change of pace from the opener. That was a Lucha showcase. Cruz del Toro, Joaquin Wilde, Lince Dorado, and Mini Abismo Negro against Octagon Jr., Laredo Kid, La Parca, and Mascarita Sagrada. This was the first appearance of Sagrada on a WWE produced show. What you need to know is the dude is 4'5", he's 60 years old, and it's actually the same man under the mask as El Torito, who of course starred in WeLC back in the day. LWO impressed early and often as per usual. La Parca hit a cool spinning vertical suplex. Sagrada had an amazing run, including a seemingly impossible Falcon Arrow of Wild and a flying Hurricanrana off the top rope ringside. Del Toro nailed a coast-to-coast on Octagon before Wild countered a Hurricanrana into a sunset flip, putting, I believe, Laredo into his own guy. Dorado followed with a shooting star press for a broken fall. La Parca delivered a rolling cutter before eating a springboard cutter and getting caught with a springboard moonsault counter to a baseball slide. Del Toro splashed 4 dudes with an Escalera Tornillo. Laredo splashed 5 with a corkscrew plancha. Then Wild hit a slingshot splash. So far, he nearly missed the 3 dudes he was aiming for. This as Sagrada rolled over and around Negro for the 1-2-3. Super fun match. Lived up to its name as a Lucha showcase. The finish was unfortunately clunky. I really just wanted to see the tope and high-risk sequence continue one after another, but it was a hot start to the show. Some new face recognition for WWE crowd with Sagrada there and Abismo Negro as well. I think everyone else had already been on TV. 4 stars, A-. LWO guys remain underutilized on the main roster. We say it time and time again, every time they wrestle. Why don't these guys get featured more? They should be a major part of the Raw tag team division. And unfortunately, they're just not. So that wraps up the analysis, because it really wasn't instant, of WWE AAA Worlds Collide. We did not do pre-show expectation grades for this, but I did post a poll because I knew there was going to be such a long time between the end of the show and us talking about it. I did post a poll on Twitter at Getting Overcast, so all of you who got to watch could vote. Unfortunately, we got like 50 votes or less. It was a very low attended poll, and the results of which are, pretty surprising to me. 57% A plus to A, 30% A minus to B plus, 5% B to B minus, and then 8% C plus or lower. That averages out to a 94.3 out of 100, a firm A for this show. And look, from an entertainment standpoint and a value standpoint, because it was free on YouTube, I would say, sure, I guess you could call it an A from that angle. But this was not an A show when you compare it to, a lot of what we've gotten from WWE, including WrestleMania, including Worlds Collide 1. This was the worst, quote unquote, of the three. So I think that poll is a little bit boosted by the small number of respondents. And also, if you're watching that show at that time, it's certainly possible that you are much more into it than the general audience who might have watched it at 8 p.m. on a Saturday, as an example. It wasn't an A show. In terms of match quality, entertainment level, yeah, it was really entertaining, but not really enough happened that was a big deal that I could go anywhere near that number. I will, though, give it like a 90 out of 100, an A minus, a flat A minus, low A minus. It was like everything that I hoped it would be. It wasn't a waste of time. It was super entertaining. There were a couple matches that I would actively tell you to go watch. I'd watch the main event. I'd watch the Latin American Championship 4-way, and I would watch if you want fun wrestling, the Balor Iguana stuff and the mixed tag team match. And then if you just really wanted a Lucha Showcase, if you just wanted like crazy moves and shit, you could watch that one as well. So I guess in that way, I'm telling you that you can watch most of the card. But for me, that does not make an A show. You really got to have major high quality matches, important angles, and so on and so forth for you to get that kind of grade. But a 90 out of 100, yeah. it was really entertaining. That's 3 for 3. The WWE has been in the A range for their co-produced, or I guess produced, AAA shows, one of which was a firm AAA show, WrestleMania, and then the others being this Worlds Collide combination held in the United States. What I will also say is I know that this one was kind of, I don't want to say thrown together, but it was run so quickly after the first one, specifically because of the Canelo Alvarez Bud Crawford fight. They wanted something that would appeal to Mexican fans. Canelo is Mexican, in Las Vegas, so that they would be there for the weekend. They'd have events to go to. They'd have tickets that they could buy and merchandise that they could buy. I truly hope, though, that Worlds Collide on an annual basis is spaced out much better than this. If you want to do one every 6 months, okay. But you have all the PLEs, I think it's 12 nights of PLEs across 10 shows that are going to be airing on ESPN. Then you have 4 Saturday nights main events. So let's say that's 14 shows and 16 nights, right? Then you have NXT PLEs, which, I don't even know what number that they're going to be doing going forward, at least 6. And then if you start doing these every quarter, it just becomes way too much, not to mention the AAA exclusive shows if you end up wanting to watch those. And then AAA Mania, which is going to be pretty much co-promoted every single year going forward. So you're talking like 20, maybe 24 shows if you go crazy with this. And that's 2 per month in addition to Raw, SmackDown, and NXT weekly on television. And then for us, that's addition, and this is why WWE, maybe one of the reasons, is doing so much, to everything that's happening in AEW, and then some TNA shows as well, because there's TNA stuff that does matter these days. So it's just a lot of wrestling, but a lot of wrestling specifically from WWE. So fingers crossed that Worlds Collide is only twice a year, once every 6 months. And if that's what they do, thumbs up, because they are entertaining shows. They are valuable, no question. But I don't want to run this once a quarter, especially when you're also doing Saturday night's main event once a quarter. All right, that wraps up this special edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. We will be back on Tuesday talking WWE WrestlePalooza Ultimate Preview style. Of course, we'll also cover everything that happened on Raw and SmackDown. Next Thursday, we will have your AEW All Out Ultimate preview, and we'll give you the results of NXT Homecoming. And then next weekend, I'm not exactly sure how it's going to work, but I'm pretty confident that we'll be able to get 2 instant analysis episodes into your ear holes at some point by Sunday night. Both shows are on Saturday. Silver King also has some college football. He's traveling on Sunday. I don't know how it's going to work out, but we will do our best to have a 4-episode week for you right here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. On the way out, allow me to remind you that this show
It's all about Defy.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on YouTube. You can subscribe, listen to the show, watch video interviews on Twitter and Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights, and all of that good stuff. You can also send in questions and comments for the show that we will read on the air. Lastly, do not forget,
I happen to love the number 5.
and I hope you do as well, $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. Again, that is buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Thank you all so much for listening to this special edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. We'll be back with you on Tuesday. But this is the Silver King signing off and leaving you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.